This full article can be found on Singapore Law Watch. IRAS probes home buyers who use the 99-to-1 loophole to avoid paying ABSD. To start things with, this is actually none of my business, but I'm seriously curious as to why there's this supposed loophole. Why hasn't it been discovered, or what's exactly happening on the grounds? So follow me on this investigation. Straits Times has learned that letters are being sent to first-time buyers of private real estate asking them to explain why they sold 1% of the same property to a relative barely a week after exercising the purchasing option. Who initiated this setting of 1%? Is it the first-time buyer? Can't be, right? Because if you think about it, a first-time buyer does not even get impact from ABSD, additional buyer stamp duty. It's quite obviously the person that is buying this 1% that's initiating this. And as we can read, it's definitely a relative. Such a deal allows the relative who owns other properties to avoid paying the ABSD while still being a co-owner of the new property. It allows the relative to become a co-applicant for the bank loan for the property. Let's term this relative puppet master and that original buyer as the puppet. Puppet master asks puppet to sell 1% so that puppet master can co-fund this property loan. Why only 1%? Think about it, I'll give you the answer in a while. This co-applicant idea works because for bank loan, even if you own 1%, you can co-fund it. It's not like a 3,000 mortgage. You own 1%, you only pay $30. It doesn't work like that. You can actually pay the entire mortgage. And quite obviously, puppet has no capacity to pay it. Not all properties are owned on joint tenancy. If you are familiar with the property landscape, 99-1 ownership is actually a proper legal structure. But what's in it for this 1% owner, correct? Quite obviously, it started off with this decoupling idea. And this whole decoupling idea is just an ugly byproduct of ABSD. Actually, who's earning from all this decoupling? It's quite obviously conveyancing lawyers, correct? And how it works typically is for decoupling planning. Husband owns 1% and is the one that's geared to buy the second property in future. Wife owns 99%. So the idea of structuring like that is such that when husband is ready to buy the second property, he will sell this 1% to wife. And then this 1% definitely attracts buyer stamp duty. Take note again, the legal conveyancing charges are not 1% of that $6,000. It's not $60. I've actually done an article before on my website, Dear Still Parent. I'll leave it in the links below. It's the full fees, so again, lawyers benefit massively. But again, this buyer stamp duty will apply on this 1%, and keep that in mind because it will relate to the later part of the story. Let me reinforce again, 99-1 planning is actually a legal structure. There's nothing wrong. It is not the same as these cases, which could infringe into tax evasion. A veteran financial planner told ST Days came across 5 cases recently. I have seen 99-1 structure, but not this 100% purchase and then sell out 1% subsequently. But let's continue. A property agent said he was not surprised by the audit because he knew quite a number of buyers at property launches who were advised to exploit this loophole to bring in co-owners later. Cases that are being audited by IRAS have common factors. The initial buyer did not own any real estate, so when they bought properties seemingly for themselves, they did not have to pay the ABSD. Shortly after that, they signed a 99-1 agreement to sell 1% of the same property to a relative who has other residential units. Again, puppet sells 1% to puppet master. And why is there a need to do such a thing? Because if they bought the unit together from the start, ABSD is payable so long as one of them is the homeowner. I did a quick search on internet and I looked through many blog posts and they all actually said the same thing. ABSD is charged on the entire property. This is actually common knowledge really. So before you think and underestimate the people who are participating, which is puppet and puppet master, in this tax evasion idea, you think that they are blur, they don't know what they're doing. It's not likely the case. It's common knowledge enough for us to assume that for someone who can buy a condo, is able enough to go and search on Google to read these blogs, and they would know that they have to pay the entire ABSD if they had structured it 99-1 at the start, instead of 100% using puppet and then transferring 1% to them eventually. By delaying the transfer of 1%, they think they need to pay ABSD only for that portion, thus saving 99% of the duty. They think, are they really that blur? Or do they really save? Take note again on our title for today. IRAS probes home buyers who use the 99-1 loophole to avoid paying ABSD. Loophole. Coming to here, I'll logically have to guess that someone participating would have seen successful preceding events of ABSD paid on only 1% of the property. I don't know how exactly it happens. Obviously, I don't participate in such a scheme. I don't support it. But let's think first whether are there previous instances of loopholes. Let me flash this up. No escape from ABSD on buying residential property by transferring into a living trust. Government has clamped down on it, and right now it attracts 35% ABSD using this trust method. Let's go back to another case in 2017. Transfer of home owning entities, government now plans to apply residential stamp duties. In this loophole, you would realize that a direct purchase of residential property will incur 3% buyer stamp duty and 15% ABSD. That was the rate then, right now it's 17%. But by buying shares of the holding company that owns the property, this will only incur 0.2% tax on the net asset value of the holding company. This was a loophole that's plugged, and right now it's treated with the same tax rate, but it proves again that there are loopholes that some have exploited. To satisfy my own curiosity, I went to dig around for forms, and this is just again my best hypothesis. I realized that in such a form filed, there are actually a few formats. There's sales and purchase agreement, and there's also transfer, assignment, and conveyance agreement. As we have learned from the case, if it's a sales and purchase, you bought everything upfront, it requires to pay ABSD on the entire property value. That one everybody knows already actually. But it's this transfer process that could be the loophole. Disclaimer again, this is just my hypothesis in my own investigations. If I look at the form, I realize that there's a column to fill for share of property transferred, which could be partial and 1%. And with that, I would like to guess that does that mean that the unit purchase price or the market value is actually 1% of that flat? If it is $1 million, then maybe that 1% is only $10,000, which attracts ABSD 70% of $10,000. That is my best guess, because as we've learned, when you transfer 1% legally, you already attract buyer stamp duty. Could this 1% format be attracting that ABSD or not? Because again, it falls in the transfer mechanism. This is my own hypothesis, because if you go and dig around on internet, nobody dares to put exactly how it's done, because quite simply that's encouraging tax evasion. I'm right now doing a narration as to why this could have happened. And my stand again is I do not support such schemes. I even hate ideas that promote on loopholes in properties like divorce and transfer HDB flat to save on ABSD, how to squeeze out more loans artificially. Stop all that FOMO. I strongly encourage prudence in property purchase, and it's something I've consistently been mentioning about. And again, if you agree on this message on buying properties prudently, or you appreciate this whole investigation work, smash the like button. Back to the point on this puppet buying 100% and transferring that 1% after the purchase. The reason of transferring that 1% is because that person only wants to pay ABSD on that 1% in that original loophole, and is willing to take the enormous risk of owning that property 1% from a puppet master position. It is quite obvious that this puppet master owning 1% has no intention to stay there, or quite possibly rent it out long term, because he or she fully understands that that legal structure does not protect him in the eventual event of a sale. Relationships can change. Puppet could turn around and bite puppet master, and things could turn sour. That is why I would like to guess that such a property purchase on this method would likely be sold as soon as there's a profit, or as soon as it's TOP. That person is a speculator that property prices will go up so that he or she can flip out as soon as possible. And it's worth to note that investigations will target all cases involving such deals, and there's no time bar for such probes. And as a last word, moving forward, only first-time buyers can own properties with a 99:1 arrangement, which validates that this is still an acceptable strategy for decoupling in future. As of now, I'll leave my deep analysis to here, and I'll suggest one of my previous video that is highly popular: Foolish Home Buyers. Check that out. Hopefully it advocates again on prudency and long-term planning. With that, I'll sign off from here and see you there too. Take care as always. Goodbye.